Well, good evening. First, let me thank Joe Mulholland. He's a long time friend of France, not least because he married a charming French lady. But thank you for your nice words, Joe, and for this very kind invitation to open the 32nd annual McGill Summer School. I feel really privileged to be here tonight in front of such a distinguished audience in the presence of the Taoiseach, and it's really a big joy for me to be here. Coming back to Glentees is yet for me another truly Irish experience. And perhaps I should mention another privilege is that I'm sleeping in room number 3 here at the hotel, and that's where my favorite actress, Meryl Streep, slept some time ago. So we all agree that these times of crisis are indeed challenging, but they are also an opportunity. Reforms are sorely needed in our countries and in Europe, and there may never be a better time to implement them. France and Ireland are old partners, and at the moment, I think they share the same will to reform and to rebuild, the very essence of this year's seminar. When the first envoy extraordinary, as he was called, to the Irish Free State arrived in Ireland in July 1930, he was greeted by these words: "You will find yourself among friends. Our traditional affection for France is unchanged." And some 80 years later, I want to tell you that this friendship between Ireland and France is still strong and vibrant. And like all the French living in Ireland, I have felt it so many times since coming here. The roots of our mutual affinity can be found in a long history of shared experiences. We have so many connections, I won't go through them all, but from the buildings of monasteries in France by Irish missionaries, to the wars and rebellions which sent Irishmen to join the Irish Brigade of the French Army, from Wolftown and the United Irishmen's call to post-revolution France and our tentative naval expeditions, not always successful, to the writers and artists such as Yeats, White, Joyce or Beckett, who found France to be a source of inspiration and a haven of creativity. We have developed many ways of binding our two peoples and our two countries. So what's the situation today? Well, today, this long-standing relationship is also tied by solid and tangible links. Our trade, valued 10 billion euros, reveals a large deficit in favor of Ireland. France is truly a significant partner, now Ireland's third largest market for exports, and the exports increased by 14% last year. During these competitive times when we're all searching for new opportunities in emerging markets, perhaps it's important to remember that France and Ireland are indeed very close neighbors, and that there are emerging opportunities to be seized just next door. French investments in Ireland are steadily on the rise in many sectors. I won't mention them all, but agri-food, insurance, pharmaceuticals, infrastructure, water treatment, energy, ICT, all of them. In spite of this economic crisis we're going through, Ireland remains a place where almost 300 French companies employing around 14,000 people are happy to do business. And furthermore, they're here to stay, as evidenced by recent increased investments I hear about all the time. Two places that I visited recently spring to mind. Sanofi Aventis, which acquired Genzyme last year, employs about 450 people at its extensive biotechnologies site in Waterford. And Danone, which produces baby formula using Dairy Gold as their key supplier, recently invested another 20 million euros into its Wexford plan. Correspondingly, France, with a population of 65 million, has proven to be an attractive place for Irish companies, whose number has doubled over the last 4 years. The successes of the Great Carrier Group, CRH, Glendimplex, and Smurfit Kappa, just to name a few, have encouraged more Irish business to choose France as the hub on the continent. New areas of cooperation are opening up too. I would mention just EDF, our main electricity supplier. They recently partnered with an Irish company called Open Hydro to develop tidal energy technology just off the coast of Brittany. And meanwhile, tourism continues to flourish, with more than 400,000 French having visited Ireland last year, and France still ranking 4th as the favorite destination of Irish tourists. In difficult times, when resources are scarce and tough choices have to be made, investment in the arts and into research can suffer. However, both Ireland and France continue to support cultural and scientific cooperation. We believe that debate and the exchange of ideas will allow the people of our two countries to find common ways of addressing the present challenges. Writers, scientists, artists have to come. And France encourages research and partnerships in areas key to Ireland's economy. There was a strong French presence recently at the Euroscience Open Forum in Dublin, and interesting new contacts were made that we hope will lead to an increased relation between the Irish Research Council and its counterpart in France. At the same time, French continues, and I was the first to be surprised when I arrived here, to be the first foreign language chosen by Irish students for the Living Cert. This is why we attach such importance to the exchanges between teachers and to our network of Alliance Française in Ireland, to attract the next generation and impress upon it the necessity to learn foreign languages in order to get ahead in competitive labour markets. So what changes have come about as a result of the election of a new French president? First, with the formation of a new French government, an excellent opportunity has opened up to renew relations between our political leaders and administration, and it has already started with Tonishta. Further, with a newly elected French parliament that includes many new faces, more women, and a strong majority in place to implement the government's policies, we must work to strengthen the existing links with the Oireachtas and to deepen relations between Irish and French politicians. At the same time, this French government finds itself facing a very difficult fiscal situation. Our public debt, only 22% of GDP in the 80s, now stands at almost 90%. If France is to maintain its position as the second strongest economic power in Europe, it must put its finances in order. And that means reducing its budget deficit to 4.5% this year and to 3% possibly in 2013. Thus, I must tell you that reforming the state will really be a priority for France too in the coming months. Structural reform must be implemented in a number of key areas, and I'd like to mention perhaps in particular seeking new sources of revenue through increased efforts from the wealthiest taxpayers and by closing tax loopholes, but while protecting sectors that generate economic activity. Reducing the number of the 5 million civil servants and freezing public expenditure, except in the priority sectors of education, security, and justice. We have to lower also the costs of social security while protecting the most vulnerable of our society. Combating also the 10% unemployment rate by allowing young people access to the job market and seniors to stay in work without placing an additional burden on companies that need also to regain competitiveness and flexibility. And finally, we have to reform also the political practice in France of holding several mandates at once, both at local and national level, and introducing ethical rules in the financing of political campaigns and parties. A cross-party committee has just been set up to inject more morality into French politics and prevent corruption and conflicts of interest. Such large-scale reform will not be an easy task, especially in a country like mine that is very attached to its generous state subsidies and his very generous system of social security. But there are signs that public opinion is changing. A recent poll showed that 80% of French people agree that public expenditure must be reduced. Our president has chosen a new style, an inclusive way of introducing reform through dialogue. This was recently demonstrated at a social conference in Paris between trade unions and all the main interested partners, the aim of which was to define a true and long-term social partnership, and perhaps we have to learn a lot by what Ireland has been doing. Rebuilding is also at the heart of France's vision for the EU. As stated by our new Prime Minister, Ayrault, in his first address to Parliament, and I quote, "The European Union is the first world economic power, but divisions, self-interest and competition have fragmented its capacities, and our lack of solidarity has given way to the cupidity of speculators. The time has come to refocus the European project and to find once again the audacity of its founders." The elections in France, I think, have brought a new impetus. President Hollande has clearly stated that austerity and the fiscal compact alone were not the solution. His determination paved the way for agreement at the June European Council on a new compact for growth and jobs, which would be worth billions of euros. He supported the need to improve the financial stability of the Eurozone. A European banking union is now on the way, and the ESM will be able to recapitalize banks without burdening the taxpayers. France also endorses a tax on financial transactions that we will set up before the end of this year. And we support the long-term roadmap for a deeper economic and monetary union. President Hollande believes in further European integration if it is accompanied by increased solidarity. Our special relationship with Germany will remain close for many reasons, and I think we have shown that compromises have already been reached. France's unique geographical position in Europe can perhaps contribute to its capacity to play the role of bridge builder in times that call for more solidarity than ever before. And in his first visit to London recently, the President also stated that Europe can progress at different speeds, each partner according to its own pace, while at the same time respecting others. The future, I think, of our two countries is linked to the European project, which has enabled us to enjoy decades of peace and prosperity. France and public French opinion and the press and the media really fully appreciate the efforts that have been made by Ireland so far to meet its obligations under the bailout program. And we support its endeavours to return to the markets next year. Ireland's upcoming presidency of the EU will provide us with the opportunity to work more closely together. We know the scales of the challenges that lie ahead, and those challenges cannot be evaded. But I think the time is really right for a new beginning, a time to rethink old attitudes and become engaged in real, honest debate. For that reason, it is most valuable to have you all gathered here, thanks to Joe and his non-stop energy, to reflect on how to reform and rebuild our economic, political, and social institutions, always mindful of our shared responsibilities in order to pave the way for a better future, based perhaps on more fairness and solidarity. Thank you.